Well, this summit will open in Po a little bit later on this afternoon, actually. And Po is a very symbolic choice because 7 out of the 13 French soldiers who were killed in Mali in late November were based here. Many of them had family and friends in the area, so this whole town was plunged into mourning, essentially, back in late November, early December. And early this afternoon, the G5 African leaders will lay a wreath along with the French president to honor those French soldiers from Po who were killed. And the Elysee will be hoping that that image of the joint laying of the wreath will send a message that France is not in the Sahel to occupy those countries. It's not there to occupy them, to colonize them, but to help them in this common fight against the jihadists. And that's a very important message that the Elysee wants to send because, of course, there has been this anti-French sentiment growing in the region. We've seen these sporadic protests against the French military presence, and that is something that is very high up on President Macron's agenda here in Po. He has said that the G5 leaders must do much more to counter that anti-French sentiment in their home countries.
And do both sides have a clear objective of what they want to get out of this summit?
There's a consensus that things are getting a lot worse, but there isn't really a consensus on what the best way out of this is. On just how much worse things are becoming, well, we saw that attack you mentioned, 71 killed in an attack on a military base in Niger in December. We've also seen civilians pay a very heavy price for this whole destabilization. Hundreds dying across Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger in the course of last year. We've seen organized crime on the up, kidnappings on the up, and climate change playing into this whole problem. There isn't any way that the bigger issues, the whole kind of development issues, can be resolved at a summit like this in Po. But on the more narrow military questions, we may be seeing a slight sharpening of the French mission. We've heard that the French operation called Barkhane, which numbers 4,500 French troops in the Sahel, that may be narrowed geographically to two particular regions which are considered to be especially problematic by the French military. We're not sure at this point whether this will involve a slight increase in Barkhane soldiers. That's possible, but it still leaves very much open the question of what happens to the Sahel military force. That is the joint military force which was supposed to be fully operational by now, but it has never actually started or taken part in any major combat operations. That's something that the French want to see changed, but of course the G5 leaders will be very quick to point out that the funding pledges for this force have not materialized. They're hoping that the international community will begin to step up to the plate here in Po.